It's an incredible feeling, isn't it, when you finally found that one special person who feels like the other half of you. They just get you. They know what you're thinking before you even say it out loud, and they understand you like nobody else ever has. But do you know what's even better? When they're just as head over heels about you as you are about them. Maybe even more so. It's what everybody dreams of, finding that mind-blowing chemistry and innate connection to another human being. That is, until it turns into your very worst nightmare. In the landscape of modern relationships, there are very few tactics that are as intoxicating but also as dangerous as narcissistic love bombing. Completely contrary to what the name suggests, this isn't an act motivated by love at all. Instead, it's a sophisticated and well-honed tool for psychological manipulation and is the first stage of a toxic cycle which is designed to overwhelm a target with excessive attention, adulation, and flattery. The purpose of this blitzkrieg of adoration is to covertly and subtly secure control and create an almost immediate, contrived state of codependency. In order to best protect ourselves against narcissistic love bombing, we first need to gain some insight as to why the narcissist engages in this extremely potent manipulative tactic in the first place. Well, sadly, it's almost never driven by genuine love, affection, or a desire to connect. Instead, it serves the narcissist's desperate need for what psychologists and clinicians refer to as narcissistic supply. Narcissists lack an innate sense of self-worth or any kind of emotional regulation. It means that they require a constant and unquenchable supply of external validation from the people around them. So by reeling a partner in quickly, they can ensure a steady source of admiration, attention, and all-important validation to mask their deep-rooted insecurities and perhaps, at least momentarily, distract them from their erosive internal feelings of shame and inadequacy. Love bombing is also a mechanism for establishing control and almost imperceptible dominance. The sheer intensity of the attention is meant to make the victim feel privileged or even indebted. And it's the forceful and overwhelming nature of the attention that creates an unhealthy and imbalanced relationship dynamic right from day one. Because the victim is quite literally adored into submission with gushing praise, flattery, and overwhelming declarations of love and devotion, they're much more likely to overlook red flags or to concede to demands further down the line. Furthermore, the whirlwind pace of this romantic tornado allows the narcissist to fast-track an intense feeling of intimacy very quickly. By completely bypassing the natural, gradual process of getting to know someone, they secure commitment before they're true, and more often than not, obnoxiously unpleasant personality has a chance to surface from behind the mask of their false self. Recognizing the signs requires us to look past the picture book perfect romance and see the performative nature of the behavior behind it. Whilst the early stages of any relationship can feel giddyingly intense, narcissistic love bombing is uniquely defined by its complete lack of boundaries. One of the most prominent and obvious signs is hugely excessive adulation and over-the-top flattery. A narcissist engaging in love bombing might label you as their soulmate or their destiny after only a handful of interactions, offering compliments that feel massively exaggerated or inauthentic given how little time has actually been spent together in each other's company. And this onslaught of intoxicating attention is usually accompanied with bombarding you with relentless communication. You might find your phone blowing up with non-stop texts, calls, or social media messages. They might demand immediate responses and show agitation or hurt if you're unavailable, even for a short period of time. This relentless barrage of attention could also quite often go hand in hand with over-the-top grand gestures and meaningful gifts. Whether it's expensive jewelry within the first month or whether it's much more inexpensive but hugely personal gifts like a mixtape of romantically meaningful songs, these gifts invariably come with unspoken strings attached. They will often be used later as ammunition to make you feel guilty if you attempt to set boundaries or if they deem that you haven't reciprocated in a satisfactory manner. In tandem with the love bombing, it's also common to experience another highly potent aspect of narcissistic manipulation known as future faking. This is another facet to the love bombing strategy where the narcissist begins painting the picture of an imagined future life together, often discussing marriage, cohabiting, or children, all within just weeks of meeting. They may also practice intense mirroring, where they suddenly appear to share every single one of your hobbies, values, and tastes. And this alignment is rarely authentic or genuine. It's actually a calculated effort to accelerate an instant, unbreakable bond and rapidly build and establish unearned trust. Perhaps the most telling sign is their reaction to any boundaries that you might try and implement. If you attempt to put the brakes on and slow things down, a narcissistic love bomber will not respect your pace. In fact, they're more likely to instead react with anger, guilt-tripping, or an even more intense display of affection to regain control. The greatest tragedy of this cycle is that the love bombing is almost always followed by sustained devaluation and then ultimately discard. The victim will be criticised, minimised, given constant silent treatments to show the narcissist's displeasure, and then eventually abandoned in an act that's very purpose is designed to leave the partner confused and broken. It's this constant cycle of hot and cold treatment between love bombing and repeated silent treatments which all culminates in creating a trauma-bonded partner. When we've been systematically conditioned with the constant push-pull dynamic of the dopamine rush when we're love-bombed and validated, followed by the crashing flood of the stress hormone cortisol, which is triggered by our anxiety at being ignored and then ghosted by the narcissist, it then leaves us in a traumatized state of shock, self-blame, and rumination, and it makes it incredibly difficult for us to leave or move on. The path to recovery is clear, but also incredibly challenging. Firstly, it requires going completely no contact to break the toxic cycle and remove us from the abusive patterns of manipulative narcissistic behavior. No contact will also help to prevent what is known as hoovering, whereby the narcissist tries to suck us back into the same repetitive cycle with a fresh round of love bombing and manufactured affection before devaluing and discarding us all over again, usually quicker and more painfully than the first time around. So what makes it so dangerous? I mean, we all enjoyed it when it was happening, didn't we? Being in a relationship with someone who appeared to be our perfect other half, and them constantly making us feel as though they not only saw and truly understood us, but were captivated by us and thrilled to be in our very presence. Curly, my abuser, truly made me feel like the most incredible man who had ever lived, which I know is completely ridiculous. I'm probably only just inside the top 10. But in all seriousness, let's just think about that for a moment. Think of all the abuse that you suffered over the course of the relationship, whether it was the cold silent treatments or the volcanic eruption of their heated fury, whether it was the belittling comments or the cheating and triangulation, or the ghosting and abandonment when it all finally disintegrated and that they thought that they had found a better, shinier source of supply. All of this only happened for one reason: because we let it. Because our boundaries had been eroded and decimated over time, and all of it hinged on the intensity of the idealization phase and the overwhelming love bombing we were subjected to at the beginning. None of us would have allowed someone to demean us so openly, denigrate us so totally, and respect us so minimally if it weren't for the fact that we were still desperately clinging on to the magic of that golden period where their adoration swept us off our feet. On a personal note, there were at least half a dozen occasions that I can pinpoint during the course of the relationship where I either should have walked away, or on the occasions when I actually did, I should have held fast and never returned or looked back. But those weed-like tendrils that rapidly embedded themselves into me during the love bombing meant that however deplorable her later behaviour became, all she had to do was flick the switch. Be nice once more, shine just a little bit of her radiant light on me, scatter a few breadcrumbs, and I found myself again wanting to believe that if I only tried harder, loved more patiently, gave more freely, then we really could find our way back there. The love bombing is so dangerous because it's the very foundations on which all the other stages of narcissistic emotional abuse is built. So there you have it. That's my take on why the love bombing is the most toxic and damaging phase of the relationship with a narcissist. It's because it's the most insidious stage of all. Whilst you think that you're being swept off your feet, understood, seen, and loved like you've never been loved before, you're actually being systematically broken down and reprogrammed, bonded through manipulation and coercion. It's so psychologically damaging because not only are you unaware that it's happening, you're actually deliriously happy, and dopamine is coursing through your veins. Even now, with a lot more clarity and insight, it's still a lot for me to get my head around that I could have been abused without even knowing it. I'd always assumed that people who are in abusive relationships know that they're being violated. To only discover after she had vanished off the face of the earth that she had deceived me right from the very beginning, exploiting my empathy and goodness, and that she had manipulated and abused me from the very first moment, has left me struggling with feelings of shame, embarrassment, and foolishness, as well as the confusion and sense of loss. I'd really love to hear exactly what part of the relationship with a narcissist you think is the most damaging and psychologically disturbing. Was it the devaluation, the gaslighting, or the cheating? Or maybe something else? Please do leave a comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It goes without saying that it means a lot if you've made it to the end, and hopefully you'll join me again soon where we'll uncover and explore more of what the narcissist has subjected us to, all of which felt so personal, yet was nothing more than a cyclical behavioural pattern that every single one of their partners will ultimately endure. Please, just be kind to yourself, and whilst it's easy for me to say, things will slowly get easier. Remember, together, we will get through this.